Streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and blasttheradio.com, this is The Lowell Green Show. The number to call and be heard around the world is 613-413-2217. Or email Lowell at blasttheradio.com. And now, here is Lowell Green.
Question. Actually, series of questions. Are you beginning to get worried about this country? About the path that we're taking here? Are you worried that we may get ourselves into a situation which we really can't deal with? What are you most worried about? You know, I'll admit this. I never thought I would say this about my country. I never thought I would think this about Canada. But I am beginning to fear that we're headed for some very serious problems here, problems that we may not be able to successfully overcome. Inflation is skyrocketing. Stock market is plunging. Did you see it today? Many fear a very deep recession is just around the corner. Quebec has just passed a law which essentially removes all Anglo rights in that province. You can't even get married in English in Quebec today. You can't send your children to an English language school. The entire country, including the provinces, terribly in debt. With rising interest charges, most monthly interest payments are now well past $1 billion a week. You know, somebody's got to start paying attention to this. If you do the math, you will see that combined provincial, just Ontario, I'm just dealing with Ontario and federal debt combined, the interest payments now are about $1 billion a week. Not $1 billion a month, $1 billion a week in interest payments coming out of your pocket into rich pockets. 1/4 of all Canadians say they fear they're going to have to sell their homes if mortgage rates are going any higher, and they are going higher. Freedom of speech is under attack. They just passed Bill C-11. Well, in the dead of night, can you imagine the scoundrels? In the dead of night, they passed this. They cut off debate. It's now in the Senate. There's no chance the Senate will kill it. So essentially, our freedom of speech is over. Essentially, Bill C-11 gives the government absolute control over what you say and do on all social media. The environmentalists still won't let us get our oil and natural gas to international markets, which cry out for it. Carbon tax is set to increase again next month. China continues to feel its muscle, flex its muscle, with the West seemingly unable to deal with the communists, either there or in Russia. And on the bad news goes. Sorry to break between these. I'm just summing up some of the things that you cannot deny, that are there for all to see, if we would. It's not a pretty picture. But to be honest, what concerns me the most in all of this is not so much what's happening. I'm worried. I'm worried about recession. I've been through that. But you know, in the past, we've always been able to survive and do well because we have been a tough, resilient, innovative people, able to overcome incredible handicaps. But I'm afraid something is happening in this country that makes us much more vulnerable to hardship than at any time in the past. I'm not saying that this applies to everybody, but I'm talking generally here. Increasingly, and this is a fact, more and more Canadians are prepared to accept mediocrity. Sorry to say, but it's true. Prepared to even accept political corruption. Got plenty of that. No one seems too concerned. Very little protest over the destruction of Anglo rights in Quebec. Very little concern being expressed over Trudeau imposing the Emergency Measures Act, which eventually removed all of your civil rights. A lot of people don't know that. In fact, a lot of Canadians applaud that. Had no problem with the government, the Trudeau government, without a court order or anything else removing your civil rights. A lot of people say, oh, that was okay. Then, of course, there's the huge debt that we are leaving our children, our grandchildren. And I've already talked about the interest payments on that debt. I don't know what kind of a future we're going to create for our children. In the past, because we've always been this resilient, tough, innovative people, we've been able to overcome. Sometimes we've been bruised pretty heavily, but I'm not sure if our ability to withstand hardship is what it used to be. I'm not sure. I hope it is, but I'm concerned. There appears very little opposition or concern from most Canadians, as I say, over the Bill C-11. C-11, folks. This, if it's passed by the Senate, and it will, gives the government, in this case, the government of Trudeau, the right to essentially control what you say and do on all platforms of the internet. Now, some people say you can't do that. Well, the fact of the matter is they're passing a law that says they can. They can, if this thing passes, and as I say it from all points of view, it will. Don't forget, I mean, Singh joins with the Liberals, okay? So it's Singh and Trudeau, and the rest of us can just go pound sand. Nothing we can do. So, I mean, the Conservatives are fighting it tooth and nail. Doesn't matter. They're outnumbered. Simple as that. So, freedom of expression. This is a direct attack on freedom of expression, freedom of speech, and Canadians don't seem very concerned about it. Public apathy. Trudeau's been caught time and time again lying through his teeth, breaking the law. People just don't seem concerned. You do, some of you, but many of us don't. We're leaving a staggering debt for our children. Seems to be of little concern. Public apathy, willingness to accept corruption, mediocrity. This is what allows dictators to take over. This is what brings countries, formerly strong countries, to its knees, to third world or close to third world status. Ask them in Venezuela. I covered the, well, I won't get into that. I mean, if you saw what happened in Bosnia, when people just didn't pay attention. I mean, you know there's a problem with apathy when about 60% of the population can't be bothered to show up to vote. That's how dictators come to power, folks, and I'm worried. I'm worried that we just don't have the resilience, the toughness to fight this anymore. I don't know. I don't know about you. I could be. I've been around a long time. I've seen a lot of things. I've seen this country under stress and strain before. We've always come through it. As I say, sometimes bruised, but I don't know this time. What worries you the most, folks? Or are you worried? Do you think that we still have the wit, will, wisdom, strength, guts, determination to come out of this okay? Do you still think we'll be able to do it? What's your feeling on this, folks? What does worry? Or are you quite happy with the way things are going? You think we're okay, Jack? A lot of people do. I notice, more stories about while spending all sorts of booze and wine and so forth on Trudeau's planes and public service plane food and so. And a lot of people don't seem the least bit concerned. I mean, we've got people out there that can't afford to put food on the table. We've got native reserves that still don't have drinking water that's fresh. But a lot of people don't seem concerned over the fact that a governor, a governor general, and 29 people can spend $100,000 in inflate meal. A lot of people aren't concerned about that. I don't know what's going on here, folks. Maybe you got a better idea than I. John, any reaction to this? Any of this so far?
Yeah, 100%. And we invite your comments on YouTube, on Twitch, on Twitter as well, and Lowell's Facebook, my Facebook, the Blast the Radio Facebook. My big concern, and this is a big reason why I've made the shift and wanted to bring people like you on here. Canadians, for the longest time, in my view, have not been paying attention. Now, I come from the music side of radio, where the only opportunity I would get to opine would be to do, a silly little joke about a headline. as it pertained to government or politics. And for far too many years, people would say, I don't get the joke. Why is that funny? Oh, I didn't read that. I'm not watching the news. Canadians, and this is my big fear, Canadians for a long, long time have not been paying any attention and don't care to. And that is horrifying. I saw nothing on my social media timelines about Bill C-11. I didn't even see it in broadcast circles. It's a non-issue, and it's terrifying.
Well, as I say, they imposed the Emergency Measures Act, which essentially removed all of your civil rights. Nobody seemed very concerned about it, and even
No, they're
now
defending it.
people are trying to defend it now. So you get some truckers come in, honk their horns, annoy you, and so you can remove everybody's civil rights in the entire country.
That's a bylaw issue. That's a bylaw issue. That is not a rights issue. That is not a take control of my bank account issue.
Well, it's not just a bank account.
And on and on and on.
Under the Emergency Measures Act, police, the military, have the right to come into your home without warrant or arrest. If your neighbor says, "I think my next door neighbor has got a gun in there," then under this act, you can go into your home without a warrant, without a judge's order of any kind, and arrest you.
That's fine, Lowell. If it means the bouncy castles are going to be gone tomorrow, then I'm okay with that.
Well, I don't know. All right, what are people saying here, John?
All right, here we go. So Anne says, I'm worried that I'm losing any power to do anything about this. Complacency will be our downfall. Peter says, Canadians are too quiet on issues. They better wake up or it's curtain time. Let's go to Tony on YouTube. He says, as much as people refuse to believe it, the further removed we are from God, the worse it will get. And he adds that your message today is bang on, Lowell. Karina says, seems like most Canadians have a blindfold on and are content with receiving small payouts. Let's go to some of the earlier comments. Joshua says, yes, I've been worried since 2015 regarding the issues in Quebec that, again, nobody's paying attention to. I didn't know this. Death certificate for his mother in Quebec, all in French.
Yeah, no, that's true. The marriage certificate, as I say, you cannot get married in English in Quebec now. But I'm just throwing that out as one example of where these things are going on. What's happening is a gradual erosion of civil rights, liberties, and freedoms. When Pierre Poilievre talks about returning freedom to us, this is what he is talking about. It's incremental. We don't. It's this right is removed. The government takes over this power, etc., etc. It goes on and on. In the province of Quebec, if you're an Anglo, you don't have the right to get married in the English language.
What does that matter? What does it matter? What language I get married in?
I understand, but what I'm saying to you is that while this is it's a much broader issue. It is an issue of more and more government taking over our lives, dictating. I mentioned the fact that during the pandemic, now some people may say it was justified, but keep in mind that there was a time when the government told us whether we could eat popcorn in the movie theater.
You're right.
It may say, oh, well, that was justified, but it's a removal of freedom. When the government tells you when you can eat popcorn, there's a little bit of a problem with civil rights here, folks. It's a gradual elimination of civil rights, of freedoms. And this latest Bill C-11 is a direct attack on freedom of expression. The one place where today still you have the right to say whatever you want virtually, okay? Now, there's still laws concerning libel and slander. They still are in effect, okay? But essentially, your opinion, I'm free to say pretty well what my opinion is here. But tomorrow, when this thing passes, I probably won't be allowed to do that, folks. I have lived for something like 50 years unworked under the CRTC. I know it probably better than anybody else in this country, what it means. It means the government is able to control what you say. If you want that, then that's what we're going to get. Go ahead, John.
All right, let's go to Twitch. And Satan's Playmate says, I've asked many younger people who they felt about what is happening. I think you mean what they felt about what is happening. Many didn't care. They were more interested in the latest tech, new streaming series. Some are still receiving government payouts and waiting for the guaranteed income to start. Sorry, I'm from the older generation and will be moved out of Canada than live under a Trudeau communist.
See, this is one of the things that worries me. I don't know how common that is, but If the more that you think that governments are going to look after you, the more trouble we are in. Because in the end, it's only you, folks. The government ain't going to look after you. And then there comes, because one of the reasons is there comes a time when the government can't look after you, when the government runs out of money and nobody will loan them money anymore. You can't print any more money. And you recall what happened in pre-war Germany. You had to take a bushel basket of money in order to buy a loaf of bread. In Venezuela, money was so worthless. It printed so much money in Venezuela, it was worthless. There was money in the ditches everywhere. This is, folks, you can't just simply continue to print money and expect that there are going to be no problems. We're getting them here. Go ahead.
All right, let's go to text, 613-413-2217. All your other show links, by the way, if you just go to lowellgreen.com, they're right there for you. Canadians are happy to look to the government instead of self-reliance. Bottom line is that we don't have an honest, unbiased, and free media. Peter chiming in. Let's go to Barry. Winston, where art thou? I don't know what you're talking about, Barry, but that's not unusual.
Winston Churchill, I think he's talking about.
Okay. My apologies, Barry. I owe you an apology. Please accept that.
It was Winston Churchill. He fought apathy. There's
got
no
it.
Yeah, he fought it. Thank God he fought apathy. There was a time when even his own members of his own party didn't want to hear him warn about Germany. Every day, Winston Churchill would get up in the House of Commons and tell them how many airplanes the Germans had built that day and how many tanks had come off the factory lines. And it got to a point where his own party didn't want to hear him. Go ahead, John.
Too many balls in the air here in my court.
We know the price. We know the price we paid for that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
All right. Michael says, you make some really great points here, Lowell. Richard says, totally blown away by Bill 11 in that I've mentioned it a number of times on your show, Lowell. I'm upset that it's gotten this far up the government chain. We might as well hand in our sins and do whatever we're told. Never, he says. Barbara on Facebook, I fear people are so tired and feel overwhelmed with this federal government and cannot do anything about it. Nothing we can do about it until the next election when it will be too late, and therefore we have become complacent. Kelly says, hopefully the Senate will veto it. It will be tabled until the fall.
The Senate is not going to veto it because the majority of the Senate are liberals. Go ahead, please.
Also on Facebook, Kathy says the younger generation seem to want to be taken care of, and they think that by the government removing our rights, that means the government cares.
Well, one of the problems is that the younger generation and many people in the older generation think the government's going to look after them. And the reason for that is that the government has been looking after them, or so they thought. That, don't forget, I mean, you're handing out money, et cetera, for various causes. But in the end, particularly young people, you're going to have to pay the bill sometime, and every month. I repeat once again, and I don't think people understand this. You may say, oh, well, the debt, the children can pay for that, grandchildren, etc. Okay, fine. But you and me got to pay the interest today. And today, combined federal and Ontario debt, almost $1 billion every single week. There is, just think what $1 billion if we hired nurses, if we provided better long-term care, if we provide more money for autism. With that $1 billion a week, $1 billion a week, it's going from your pocket, mine, yours too, John, into rich people. That. Go ahead, please.
See, and I didn't understand that until I started doing this show with you. I didn't understand how, who lends money to governments. You're right. Very wealthy people invest just like any other investment in a country. They're betting on this country doing well, and they're lending it money and expecting a return on that.
People love the rich and the major institutions, the banks, insurance companies, etc., and foreign powers. They love investing in governments because they know they're going to be paid. There's no chance, well, until now, there's no chance that a government, particularly one like Canadian, is going to default on payments. So they're going to get paid. If they loan you money, well, there's a chance you may go bankrupt and they'll lose the money. But they love loaning money to governments because they know they're going to get paid. There's no risk. There's only two ways to really make big money in this country: property and loaning money. Go ahead, please.
When you first started doing the show, and this is our 401st show, you were talking about the interest payments being in the millions.
Yeah.
This is how quickly we have jumped into the billions.
Yep.
Do we do another 400 shows and suddenly we're talking trillions?
No, but I think that the way we're going now with interest, don't forget every time the interest rates goes up, it costs the rate that we have to pay the foreign investors, it goes up as well. I think that if we keep going what we're doing now, I think we're looking at a situation where one day it's going to be about $1 billion a day. Don't laugh,
Jeez.
okay? Don't laugh. It's $1 billion a week now. Let's say it's $1 billion every 2 days or every 3 days. That's money that's not available for healthcare, not available for autism. It's not available for long-term care, folks. Folks, it goes to rich people. People, who a lot of that money goes to? Some of the Russians with those huge yachts. How do you think they afforded those big yachts? Well, they invested. Go ahead, please, John.
I'm not laughing, Lowell. I know that you are well invested in this, pardon the pun, and you pay close attention. And I need to, like most folks who don't have an education in this, pay attention to those of you who do. Anyway, let's get a word in for Shields because we got a lot of comments still to get to.
Please do. Yes, Shields. Once again, we're talking about money here. There's some tremendous sales right now underway, and it doesn't matter what make that you prefer. Check them out. Shields.ca. Their website, as I've mentioned many times before, is really, really easy to use. There you'll see everything that they've got in stock. And about 95% of everything you could possibly need is in stock, which means it's going to be in your house 2 or 3 days. And yes, they do provide financing. Check out the website. You'll see there. Just click on. It's what I like about the website. It's all there. The prices, the models, etc., and the conditions and terms and the financing. It's all there. It's total absolute transparency. Thank you, John. Go ahead, please.
All right, let's go to an email. Lowell at blasttheradio.com. Lowell, worried. Yep, so much so I've been selling off just about everything I own. My aim is to get rid of about 60 to 70% of everything I have. That is Lisa. Okay, let's go to Christine. The CPC dragged its knuckles over a woman's right to choose, a ban on conversion therapy, gay marriage, and on and on. What makes your party so trustworthy all of a sudden? I'm not saying Trudeau is the answer. I'm not saying the NDP is the answer. I'm saying the lesser of evils means different things to different people. I want solutions to the housing crisis. I want an end to discrimination and not just cheap talk or unenforced laws. I'm looking out my window wondering if a tornado is headed my way, something I didn't do over 40 years ago. I want results.
So what? We all want results. But what kind of results are they when we've got to pour out $1 billion a week in interest payment? Is that the kind of result you want? I mean, it's all very well. You say, well, you got to give money here, you got to give money there. The money's got to come from someplace. Okay. Do you want higher taxes? You can afford higher taxes. You want higher price for food? Well, okay, go ahead. Keep supporting Trudeau. Keep supporting. It's not just Trudeau. It's this whole idea that somehow or other the government's going to look after you. Go ahead, John, please.
All right, let's go back to Facebook comments. And Carl says, Japan's parliament on Monday passed legislation making online insults punishable by imprisonment. Under the amendment to the country's penal code set to take effect later this summer, offenders convicted of online insults can be jailed up to 1 year or fined 300,000 yen. It's about $2,200 US. I bet this will happen here eventually, says Carl.
Wow, I didn't hear that. Wow. Whew. You see, that's the direction. You want the government to look after you. That means the government will look after me so that nobody can insult me. That's where it ends up, folks. If you want the government to look after you, it's not only put money in your pocket, bread in your bread basket, but they got to look how nobody is allowed to insult me. Nobody's allowed to make me feel bad. And if they do, they're going to throw them in jail. Somebody makes me feel bad, we're going to throw them in jail. That's what's happening, I guess. I don't know. Go ahead.
Like I said, those laws were already in place. I don't understand. And you know what? It was Andrew Scheer. Andrew Scheer. See, now I'm getting it confused. See how easily it happens. He posted a video regarding Bill C-11, and his whole point is the government is pitching this to Canadians as we're doing this to protect you.
Yeah.
The laws are already there to protect you and me and everybody else if somebody decides to say things that damage us online or anywhere. Anyway, back to Facebook. Tony says, I'm okay with a unilingual Quebec as long as bilingualism is scrapped for the rest of the country and government especially. Okay. Peter says interest is approximately $30 million every 20 minutes on the debt. Wow. He's done some serious math there. 30 million every 20 minutes. Glenn says, have any of your listeners approached the Conservative Party leader contenders to get their position on Quebec and the likes of Bill 21? I have via Pierre Poilievre and have received responses to my questions and am convinced he's the only one to help us Canadians survive. Lorraine says mortgage rates increase, homes will be lost. Most living in the moment cannot plan ahead. Gina, I believe this is the first time we've heard from you. Welcome to the show, Gina, and thanks for your comment. Too many NIMBYs here, she says. People sleep until it's way too late. Kim is on Facebook. I think the big issue is that people don't know which news source they can trust. I think people are paying attention, but the liberal spin on the media is ludicrous. People are fed up, but they don't know if there's anything we can do right now with this liberal NDP coalition.
Well, it's all very well. You can blame the media, and the media, deserves a lot of blame. But I mean, there are all kinds of things that you can see are happening around you. Go to the grocery store and you can see what's happening. Check the mortgage rates. You can see what's happening. I mean, you can't blame the media for everything. If you don't know what's going on, it's because you just are not paying attention at all. Go ahead, John. I mean, if you want to know what's going on, just tank up your car with gas and see what's going on.
I have to do that later today. I'm not looking
Right?
forward to it. Yeah. even at $2.05, with people saying, I got gas for $2.05 today. No.
Big deal.
Yeah, right. Simon says, are Ontarians allowed to cross the border to a Quebec restaurant and speak English, or is the bill only for government institutions? Complete infringement on basic rights. This makes me sick. Chris says, I wanted Quebec separatism since the FLQ terrorized Canada. I bet you regret supporting Quebec in the last round of separation threats. Quebec is its own country, and until you accept it, kick them out, we will lose this country as we've known it. Every PM from Quebec has done nothing but destroy this country. Okay. Jennifer, I'm petrified. Not for me, but for my son, his generation. Trudeau has supporters still, and it scares me. I've been saying it for a long time. Trudeau is weak, and he's running on autopilot with outside influences, not naming the WEF in fear of being called a conspiracy theorist, run our country into the ground with their ideology. Richard has a question for the loyal listeners, and it has him shaking his head. He says, with the high cost of gasoline and not seeing prices coming down anytime soon, and why would it, then why are stocks that deal in gas and fuel taking a hit and losing value? As I see it, it's a total government money grab. Shame on the Liberals, says Richard. Any comment there?
No, I don't quite follow his reasoning on that, but go ahead.
Did you want that again, or?
No, it's okay.
All right. Kim says this is all scary stuff. Lisa says, I am not accepting mediocrity. I am voting for Pierre. Michelle or Michael.
I would like to comment on that.
Yeah, of course.
We make a huge mistake if you think that simply voting for one person is going to solve the problems in this country. The problems go much deeper than that. There's a problem. I mean, Pierre Poilievre is not going to solve public apathy. Pierre Poilievre is not going to solve the problem of far more people interested in Amber Heard or whatever the hell her name is and Johnny Depp than they are about the running of their own country. Pierre Poilievre or no one is going to solve the problem when about 60% of the population doesn't care enough about Canada to even bother voting. He's one person is not going to solve that. The problem goes much deeper than that. I think it begins with people beginning to understand that everybody has a responsibility. You cannot give it all to the government to say, you got to do this. Pierre, you're responsible. No, we all have individual responsibility here. One of them being to vote. Go ahead. And another one being to be aware of what's going on.
Yep.
John.
Nope, couldn't agree more. It is time. It is way past time that we all need to get involved. And putting your opinions on Facebook and whatever else, that's great. But it has zero impact. You need to get your thoughts and your message and hold to account the people that are in charge. Hold their feet to the fire. Scare the hell out of them. Vote. Michael says, hopefully many of the legislative measures enacted by the Liberals will be undone by a subsequent administration. Well, we're years away from that. Peter says, people are going to be fed up and not put up with it. Trudeau thinks the convoy was something. Well, this will not be pretty. Over to Twitch, and Terry says...
Yeah, but see, let me just deal here. What happened in the convoy, I think, is an illustration of one of the serious problems here. I repeat, Trudeau, without any justification whatsoever, strictly on his own volition, his own whim, imposed the Emergency Measures Act, which removed your civil rights. People now know that, and very few people seem concerned. So in other words, The majority, it would seem to me that the majority of Canadians are prepared to lose all civil rights if it gets rid of a few truckers honking their horns. Go ahead, John.
If the police had asked for that, I would have less of a hard time accepting it. But the police are on the record having said they never asked for the Emergency Measures Act.
That's right.
If the police didn't feel threatened, then why should we? Okay, 3 final comments, Lowell, then we'll wrap things up because I know we're over time.
Please.
Terry on Twitch says the constant browbeating by the Liberal government over the years is just causing people to give up, just what Trudeau wants. Joshua says, I have a question and opinion, and I wonder if others feel the same way. Even though all the leaders have their detractors, we can usually agree that they did some good things for the country, yet I struggle to think of one decent thing Trudeau has actually done that isn't virtue signaling. And finally to Gregory. Gregory, you get the last word today. It seems to me that there may be outside forces at play to make Canada weak. World markets, free trade, lack of freedoms, the weak funded troops are as good as it gets, army, and now private law abiding gun owners have laws banning them from getting handguns. We are bending over for Putin.
Yeah, but we're bending over for Putin. But don't blame outside forces. The problem is in this country, is with us. The problem is with us. We're the only problem that we'll have, and we're the only one that can solve the problem. Thank you all. We'll be back tomorrow.
The Lowell Green Show is seen and heard live around the world at 2 p.m. Eastern. Connect with us online at blasttheradio.com/Lowell Green. Can't join us live? Download the Lowell Green podcast. Available on Apple, Spotify, Google, and more. Ask your smart speaker to play the Lowell Green podcast. This is a production of blasttheradio.com.